This is the eufyMake E1 UV printer. It's a 2D printer, or maybe a 2.5D printer, or maybe a 2.1D printer. It's hard to say what it is exactly. It's nothing like anything I've used before, and it's very different to what we have in the shop, because it prints images, but with texture. So sometimes people call 3D printing 2.5D printing because you're just printing each 2D layer. They're just stacked on top of each other. This is somewhat between a standard inkjet printer and your common 3D printer. But unlike your standard home or office inkjet printer, this uses, well, it uses ink, but it's more like resin. It's somewhat similar to what you have in a 3D resin printer, actually. It deposits that on a surface and it can build up those layers where you want to have texture. Like not everywhere, not the whole image, but where you want there to be a raised surface, hence texture. And it can generate the texture automatically depending on the dark and light in your image. Dark is low, light is raised. Or you can import a texture if you have it, or you can do a relief texture, which uses machine learning to determine where extra layers should be to make your image jump out more. Oh, and it doesn't have to print on flat surfaces. And it can print on basically almost any material. Oh, and it can print up to 330 by 420 millimeters. Yeah, this is nothing like what we've shown in the past. Okay, so setup and actual use of this printer was super easy. I gotta hand it to eufyMake for making it very, very, very simple to start up and use. Setup took about 20 minutes, and it's mostly just using your phone to set up Bluetooth with the device, and then you can swap to your computer and use the studio software there. The actual interface on this printer is very Spartan. There is a power button, there is the power input and an Ethernet port, and on top there is a start and stop button. For those wondering, yes, you can use the Ethernet port in conjunction with the studio software, which you can set to offline mode, so there is some element of air gapping. There is no screen. eufyMake/Anchor, they don't like screens if you're familiar with their history. And yeah, there's literally two buttons, the start, stop, and then the power on button. Two. My microwave has more buttons than this. The software is very sleek. It's not underpowered, but it's not overcomplicated, and there is already a great community online with their Make It Real platform. If you see something nice there, click on Customize, and you're ready to set up that design on whatever material you have and in whatever setting you have, whether that be flat or with texture. I love a lot of things about this printer. There are also some things I hate, but let's talk about the love first. Okay, so first of all, you can print on almost anything. We got sent a bunch of sample materials, ceramic, wood, metal, canvas, but we also tried our own, and so we also tried acrylic and yeah, printed parts. You can print on PLA, on ABS, on PETG or TPU. I don't think there is a filament you can print on, actually. There is one exception to this. So if you print something out of PLA and print on that, if the PLA part is very, very thin, it can warp. So heat isn't directly used in the printing process. However, when the UV ink cures, it gets warm. So if the PLA part is quite thin, you might get some warping. So I got this Cthulhu image, hey there Cthulhu, turned it into an SVG and exported it from a Blender as an STL. I printed that with a little 3mm hole, and then I put that in the E1, imported the original image to eufyMake Studio, aligned and printed, and I just got this incredibly detailed and textured Cthulhu keychain. I printed a flat one, and now you see exactly what advantage this device has with texture. Yes, the flat image is detailed, it's great with color, but the textured one just jumps out at you. It just screams, touch me. Not literally, though. If it does that, unplug the machine immediately and consider upping your lithium dose. You can't do this level of detail and color with your standard 3D printer. Not even HueForge can do this. And you might have noticed there is some glossiness to it. Yeah, there are in fact 6 different inks that you can get for this printer. CMYK, of course, for normal color, but also white for better halftones, and for a base choke that makes the subsequent layers of ink stand out. But there is also a gloss ink to make the final layers really pop out. This is a very quick example of the color range of the printer, and I gotta say, having the texture from the PEI base makes it look very classy when you have a flat print. If you print it on the upper side, you will see the layer lines unless you iron that top layer. Flat prints look great, but texture just adds so much. I really think this goes so well hand in hand with a 3D printer. And if you run a small business side hustle, this is an incredible add-on for professional level customization. Etsy sellers are currently feeling a disturbance in the force. So as we mentioned, we tried some other materials. This is ceramic. Eufy sent some coasters and fridge magnets our way. There is an incredible level of detail even with these small items. They also sent canvas, like regular stretched and primed cotton canvas, and you can make amazing wall art with this. I just love how strong the colors are, and when combined with texture, it's just something else entirely. They also sent wood and metal, and again, great results there. We also tried printing on transparent acrylic in very thin layers to let the light through. Combined with some printed parts, we now have this beautiful Zelda-themed mood lantern. There is another feature of this printer that totally changes everything. Everything up until now has been printed on flat surfaces. But with this, you don't have to just print on a flat surface. This printer can print on cylindrical objects. If you have a mug, a thermos, even a glass jar, you can print on it. What you just saw, the setup of the rotary module on the printer, is it. That's all you have to do to set up the hardware and get this working, and that took like 30 seconds. Eufy did an incredible job making this not just a versatile printer, but a versatile printer that is easy to use. In addition to that, Eufy also have a DTF laminating machine so you can print decals. You just use a film in the E1, set up the job, print it, put it in the laminator, and apply to your surface. You don't need to use a cutter plotter for this, you just apply the decal onto whatever surface. This machine is so powerful, but it's not really suited for everyone. Like, it is relatively affordable compared to other UV printers on the market with that level of quality and detail, but it's still quite a lot to put up for just a hobby. This is more suited to those who have a small business and want a certain level of professional customization for their product. And while this is an incredibly useful device and can totally change the way you customize your products, I did notice some negatives. Firstly, this isn't really a negative, this is just how the printer works. So this is an ink printer, but the ink is basically the same chemically as the resin in a normal resin printer. So yeah, it's a resin printer essentially, and it does smell even when it's closed. So keep this thing isolated. And while it does have a carbon filter really only makes sense when the thing is closed. And if you're using the larger flatbed, you can't close this. The resin, when cured, is pretty much the same as 3D printer resin. You can touch it, but prolonged skin contact might not be advisable. I also asked them if it's dishwasher safe. Not really. So with something like the mug, hand wash only. And I also asked them about heat resistance, and they said it is stable over 60 degrees, the critical point being 80 degrees. After 80 degrees, if it's kept at that temperature for like maybe an hour, then the ink will start to react, which is not good, obviously. Alignment can be a bit hard in the software, and as a result, you might get some overspray, causing your adhesive surface to get marked pretty easily. And unfortunately, this thing will start peeling at the edges after some time, and if you're printing something that's not very heavy, it will cause it to, well, not be flat, potentially affecting print quality. The printer can print on anything with height variations up to 2 millimeters, but if it goes over that, you'll notice issues. And we had this problem with the large canvas prints. There was variation in the height, and you can see artifacts there. My advice, if you are printing something that has some flex to it and can cause height variations, then maybe use a jig of some sort underneath it to keep it totally flat. Aligning can also be hard with the rotary prints. Even when it looks perfect in the studio software, you might still get a gap or overlap, and it doesn't look seamless. The preview in the studio software doesn't include the snapshot, which is a bit irritating. It just shows the entire build area rather than the part that you only want to print on. Overspray also happens if the nozzles in the printhead are dirty, which leads me on to a very, very important part of this printer. It needs to clean itself constantly. Like, there is a flash clean run automatically every 10 minutes during idle mode, and then heavier cleaning every few hours, and then deep cleans every 72 hours. And we had problems keeping this clean, and strangely enough, this gets worse with rotary module prints, which sucks because we're not made of travel mugs. Although I think the lack of magenta gives a pretty cool zombie-like look. If you have this printer off for like a day, then when you start it, before you start a print, do a cleaning cycle and then do a printing test just before, just to make sure. Because if you're printing something on something that's more expensive than just a bit of PLA, you might regret it. If the print test comes back pearly, it can then clean that nozzle, but there is also a manual cleaning that needs to be done monthly. And powering down this printer takes like 10 minutes because it needs to clean the print head and the nozzles and the tubes and everything, otherwise the resin will harden and clog. Your resin costs will vary wildly because it totally depends on the amount of layers that you have in your images. So if you're printing something with only a couple of layers, then yeah, you can hang on to your resin for a while. But if you're printing images with layers that up to 5 millimeters, which is the max on this, you are going to run out of resin very quickly. It may be tempting to remove the cover on top so that you can see inside during printing, but it pauses the print, so maybe don't do that. It would be nice if there was a way to see the print in progress, but I get that that's hard to implement given the nature of the device. If you run out of ink, you can't use the printer. I mean, I guess that's pretty obvious. Let me rephrase. If you run out of glossy ink, you can't use the printer to print something, even if that print doesn't have glossy ink in it, which is kind of crap. Also, you might think you won't run out of gloss quickly, but the printer actually uses both the white and the glossy ink to build up the layered structure and then does the color and final gloss coat over that. So you'd be surprised how fast you can run out of gloss if you're doing a lot of texture. In the studio software, there is a credit system for the relief texture. You get 200 monthly, and each generation of relief textures costs 5 credits. With relief texture, you do get a better result depending on the image. It can figure out where is the best place to raise the layers rather than just depending on the light and dark of pattern texture. I felt weird about having a credit system for relief textures. I think we've all developed a distaste for this sort of thing over the last few years. But after using it for some time, I didn't really deplete those credits that much, and then they got topped up anyway, so it didn't really make much of a difference. Even considering the negatives, this is still an incredible machine, and if you run a little making side hustle, then this is something that you really need to consider as an investment. That's where this shines, because it makes things so easy to the point where you don't have to be a professional or seek the services of a professional to get professional results. With a normal 3D printer, your products might well look like someone made them in the basement of their mom's house. With this, they look like they came out of a factory. Thanks for watching our video, guys. Let us know what you think of the E1 in the comments down below. And if you didn't know, we also have a Discord server where there is printer talk on a daily basis. We'll be back with another video next week, so until then, later.